Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
It's officially panic time for the Boston Celtics, who find themselves down 2-0 to the Knicks. The Warriors tried life in the playoffs without Steph Curry. It didn't go great. And the Ravens have the most momentum of any contender in the AFC. This episode is brought to you by the Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox, no console needed. Head to amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
The Boston Celtics find themselves down 0-2 to the New York Knicks, despite having 20-point leads in each of the first two games. Jason Tatum took responsibility for the Game 2 loss. John Corrales from Locked On Celtics takes no responsibility for the Game 2 loss, but he was there. He covered it. He's seen this team up close and personal. John, we talked after Game 1 about that collapse, and then it happened again. Why?
Well, I want to reiterate that it's not my fault. It's
not your fault, John. It's not your fault.
Come on, let's hug. The simplest reason why is they are not making shots. They're not making shots in the fourth quarter. You can call it getting tight. I think two separate things happen. Kind of Game 2 is a little bit of a reaction to Game 1, even though the results were very similar. The process was a little bit different. In Game 1, we talked about haymakers, right? It was the Knicks started to cut into the lead, and the Celtics said, "No problem, we got this." Hit a couple of threes, put them to bed. We're done. Good night. And they didn't pay real attention to the process of actually putting the Knicks away. And each miss fuels them getting out into transition. They get into space, they get to attack in transition, and it's a recipe for disaster. And the Knicks made shots. I think Game 2, there was a little bit of reaction to Game 1 where they said, okay, we know we were throwing the haymakers in Game 1, so we're going to really try hard to just get whatever baskets we can. And they started to almost like reverse, like press to get to the rim to try to score the twos, and kind of overdid it that way a little bit. Like Al Horford forced a couple of shots. Jaylen Brown, a couple of mid-range shots that maybe a little ill-advised. So I think they saw the lead slipping, and then they almost tried too hard. And when you're pressing, the shots aren't going to fall sometimes. And, an 8.5 minute scoreless stretch in the fourth quarter is going to be a recipe for disaster.
I can't remember if I saw you on social media mention this, but I saw someone mention, I think it was you, that for a team that has a title, they really have not executed well late in games for like a couple years now. It's a weird thing where, like, if they didn't have the title, it might be a conversation we may be having differently about this team. And they did kind of just like walk to the title last year. Like, they didn't have to face a lot of these late game situations.
Yeah.
It is a weird thing though, right? Like, this is a battle tested team. This team has been in a lot of playoffs. The Jays have been in a lot of playoff games, and yet they don't seem up to the moment, at least through two games here.
So you need a couple of things to break your way. Everybody talks about, you also need a little bit of luck to win a championship. And, you go back to the Indiana series last year where they don't make a play. They don't call a timeout. A ball bounces Boston's way. Game 1, Derek White makes a great hustle play, tips the ball from behind in a critical moment. It goes off of Jason Tatum's hands, off of Peyton Pritchard's hands, into New York's hands, and OG Anunoby hits an open three-pointer. Bad bounce, right? Great defensive play. Everything, they did everything right. Even on the other end, they did everything right. They just missed a wide open shot. And I think a little bit of that is happening. And you need the luck, you need the execution, you need poise, you need all of that stuff. And when a couple of those things aren't going your way, it gets really, really difficult. Key for the Celtics here is poise, that they just have to settle down and be like, we are the champions. right? Like, you look at these two teams in these first two games.
You're not going to sing? Man, missed opportunity.
Not until they win. If they win it all, I promise I'll come back and I'll sing.
All right, perfect.
Display my very pretty singing voice. But you have to still kind of like get out of your way. And if you look at these first two games, one team looks like a poised, we're going to play to the end. We're going to make the plays that we need to make. Yeah. The other team looks frantic. Oh my God, what's happening? Things are falling apart. We can't get it back together. It's just, they, Freaky Friday, they kind of like body switch somehow, and something went wrong. Maybe now that there's a new pope, Celtics were 0 for the conclave. Maybe Joe Mazzulla will put in a big, a good word with the big guy, although he's a Villanova fan. So I don't know. This could go either way. I don't know.
You can stay up to date all year on the Boston Celtics by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Celtics on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Your Locked On Sports Today. Coming up, the Timberwolves put belt to rear versus the Warriors. Before we get to that, Jaden Higgins just made history with the Texans. He hasn't even played a game for them yet. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on Amazon Fire TV. Plus, with 4K streaming, watch more than 1.5 million movies, TV episodes, and more from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. History made in Houston. The Texans signed rookie wide receiver Jaden Higgins to a fully guaranteed 4-year, $11.7 million deal. The first second-round pick in NFL history to get a fully guaranteed contract. Typically, that kind of money is reserved for first rounders, but GM Nick Caserio clearly sees something special in the 6'4" target out of Iowa State, who totaled 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns last season. Now he's cashing in before ever catching a pass in the NFL. Jalen Noel, his teammate at Iowa State, is also in Houston. Is he going to be looking for the same kind of deal? Over in the majors, the Royals beat up on the White Sox.
The hottest team in baseball pulled off yet another sweep at Kauffman Stadium as the Royals take down the Chicago White Sox 10-0. I'm the host of Locked On Royals, Jack Johnson, giving you a few takeaways from today's bludgeoning of the White Sox. So first things first, Chris Bubich. What more can you say about what he's done in this rotation? He's now top 7 in all of baseball among qualified pitchers for the ERA title. And he was fantastic yet again today. Got out of a lot of jams. And the changeup, the slider, the bullet slider, as he liked to call it in spring training, it all seems to be playing up out of the rotation. And I was somebody that wasn't too high on the idea of him coming out of the bullpen, or I should say switching roles from the bullpen and joining the rotation. But I slowly started to come around to it, and I'm glad I did, because he's been absolutely flawless and probably the Royals' best pitcher in the rotation. And today you saw the offense get going late a little bit. It's what they should have been doing all series long against the White Sox. But a 4-game sweep is a 4-game sweep. And as I opened it up with, this is the hottest team in baseball, and they'll take their 23-16 record against the Boston Red Sox this week.
And Jadeveon Clowney's Carolina homecoming is officially over. The Panthers released the 3-time Pro Bowler after just one season, clearing cap space and making room for a new wave of pass rushers that the team just drafted. Clowny had 5.5 sacks last year and was set to cost nearly $14 million against the cap in 2025. Now Carolina turns to pair free agent Pat Jones II with SEC draft picks to anchor the edge. As for Clowny, he's once again a free agent and still chasing consistency to match that number 1 overall pick pedigree. The Warriors are marching deeper into the playoffs without their leader, and it might get ugly. Locked On Warriors host Charlie Walter broke down Game 2 versus the Timberwolves without Stephen Curry.
All right, Wolves started 13-0. They never looked back. Jonathan Kuminga came in, brought the Warriors to within 7 in the third with unbelievable play. Jimmy Butler was passive. Trace Jackson-Davis looked good. Unfortunately, outside of JK and TJD, everyone stunk. That is your recap. Anthony Edwards' ankle almost became a story, but this was a beatdown that doesn't need to be recapped any further from me. I want to get to the big headlines from this game, prepare you for Game 3. But for you tuning into this game, I'll give you more than 15 seconds to react to what we just saw unfold in the Twin Cities.
I mean, look, it's a scheduled loss, right? You stole one in Game 1 without Steph Curry essentially for, most of that game. You didn't expect to win this game if you're the Golden State Warriors. I wish I saw more aggressiveness from Jimmy Butler. I just felt like he was so passive. He had 13 shot attempts. He didn't have a bad game, but I mean, hell, when Steph Curry's not on the floor, man, you need to be way more assertive. And then you just saw, per second I was texting you. I'm like, am I watching a G League game? We had a Kevin Knox appearance. Trace Jackson-Davis was in there, and he had some good minutes. So, I mean, it was a lot of guys. Pat Spencer was, he tried to, which I thought was hilarious. He got in for 10 seconds and tried to dunk on McDaniels and Gobert. He played a horrific game.
He was bad.
I love the energy. I love the energy that he came in there with. But yeah, I mean, listen, you got one game, you split the series on the road. You take what you can, and then you just got to hope you can figure it out back home.
That's a nice hat, by the way, for a guy from Cincinnati, Ohio, like Hudson is, to be repping the Cal Bears and the Berkeley hat tonight. That's good stuff. You know the audience,
Yeah,
it's a nice hat. I've been saying it takes a village. That's kind of been like my storyline, honestly, the entire season, because the Warriors role players are so huge. You know what you're going to get from the top half, or not in the top half, but the top couple of this roster. But it truly does take a village with this team, because Kerr went with 14 guys in the first half. He experimented with literally everyone. But 3 key players I want to dissect, and I've been talking about these 3 lifting up your ceiling or being the reason why you're not able to elevate your game. They're huge. It's Brandon Podziemski. It's Moses Moody. It's Jonathan Kuminga. Your team and success is, obviously it's determined on Steph Curry getting back from this hamstring strain. That's everything. You're going nowhere without Steph at the end of the day. But aside from that, like, these 3 guys need to be key contributors. We'll start with the one that was a huge contributor tonight. It was Jonathan Kuminga. I had a feeling it was going to be one of those games. Don't believe me? You listened to the show yesterday, faithful. The everydayers that listen to Locked On Warriors. You remember me saying this. This is one of those games, man, where I would not be shocked with how crazy this season has gone if all of a sudden the narrative shifted to Jonathan Kuminga's back, he can score, and he puts up like a 15, 20-point game. Am I crazy saying that? I was not crazy. Forget 15, 20-point game. He went for, I guess I was right in the middle. He went for 18 in 26 minutes. Should have gotten more. He was outstanding. 8 of 11 from the floor. Hit his first 7 shots. At one point in the game, Trace Jackson-Davis and Jonathan Kuminga were combined 8 for 8. The rest of the roster was 7 for 30. The first notion the first reaction that I got from Kuminga in this game was the play where Dante DiVincenzo out-hustled him for an offensive rebound. Then they hit a 3. Steve Kerr yanks him immediately. And a lot of times this season, that's it, right? Steph Curry's on the floor. That's it for Jonathan Kuminga. We've seen enough. And honestly, I love Matt Kolsky, a co-host on this show, but thank God he's not on the program today, because it would have been a completely different angle than I'm going to take this thing. He would have gone with the fact of, well, if you play him more, this is what happens. And it's hard to argue tonight that notion, considering what he was able to do when he came back into the game. He got his confidence back, man. He outplayed Butler. He was hitting the mid-range, the turnarounds. The defensive pressure was outstanding. He was hustling like it was a game 7. He was confident, which is the biggest thing with him. I don't see how you can take him out of the rotation these next 2 games. I don't think Steve Kerr's that dumb. I just think he's got to be a mainstay these next couple games before you reevaluate things, because what you saw from him tonight proves that, unlike Moses Moody, he's not entirely broken.
Stay up to date all year on the Golden State Warriors by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Warriors on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, no one in the AFC is riding a hotter wave than the Ravens. Which AFC team has the most momentum heading into the offseason? Locked On Ravens host Kevin Ostreicher believes that if there's one team in the conference with the wind fully at their back, it's the Ravens.
What if we were to tell you that a team who didn't advance as far as the team that made it to the Super Bowl, like Kansas City Chiefs, and lost, is actually ranked higher than them in the power rankings? Kevin Ostreicher, Locked On Ravens. Your Ravens coming in at number 3 here, just behind the Buffalo Bills at number 2 in our rankings that were voted on by the Locked On Podcast Network.
Not shocking. And I admittedly had the Ravens at 2, and it's, again, a top 3 in the AFC between Kansas City, Buffalo, and Baltimore. But I feel like people after the Super Bowl and how it wasn't just the Kansas City lost, it was how they lost. I feel like people are souring on them a little bit. Travis Kelce, obviously nearing the end of his career, he is back. But we saw the last time this sort of thing happened to Kansas City when they played Tampa. That was an entire offensive line reset. Obviously, it was the same type of story against Philadelphia in the Super Bowl. But I think when you talk about Baltimore and Buffalo ahead of Kansas City, I know that if Joe was here, he could have talked about it with me. And I'm curious to hear what his thoughts are on it, too, because I think we're pretty much on the same wavelength. But Joe and I think, both respect Kansas City to the point where, like, they're the team to beat in the AFC. You know, no Super Bowl loss is going to change my mind on that personally. And it's just going to be a matter of, can Baltimore finally get over that hump? And I think that from a roster perspective, I think Baltimore's roster is better than Kansas City, and I think Buffalo's is as well. But there's always that factor of Mahomes and Kelce and Reed. They've been there. They've done that. They've been able to show up in those big moments, something that covering the Ravens, Baltimore, unfortunately, has not been able to do and get over that hump. It seems like the book is out right now on them, which is they're a great regular season team. But once the postseason hits, in some way, shape, or form, whether it's John Harbaugh, Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews, whoever, some way, shape, or form, they just can't live up to the billing. So on paper, I agree. I think Buffalo and Baltimore are better than Kansas City. But I think there are other factors in there as well that you have to give Kansas City credit.
The problem for the Ravens is, in the Lamar Jackson era anyway, continuity has not been the biggest problem year to year. It's during the year. Everyone gets hurt. They've dealt with this over and over. And last year, it seemed like they were going to get through it. They had perhaps their best chance, a down year with the Chiefs, and they still couldn't do it. So, okay, sure, they have the most continuity, but it's not like they don't have question marks in addition to the scars of playoffs past. The Bills are better. We'll see about the Chiefs. The Bengals seem better. The Steelers, if they get Aaron Rodgers, they could be better. The Chargers, the Broncos, the Raiders could all be better. Not better than the Ravens, but better. Okay, they've got the momentum. Let's see how far it takes them. And finally, Manny Pacquiao. Sorry, I had to. The boxing legend who last fought in 2021 and announced his retirement to focus on politics is set to return to the ring July 19th to fight Mario Barrios for the WBC welterweight title. Pacquiao is 46, already a Hall of Famer, and I guess just loves ball, just wants to chase belts. The bout is expected to land at MGM Grand, the same arena where Pacquiao first burst onto the scene 23 years ago. 8 divisions, 1 Senate race, and a comeback later. The Pac-Man still isn't done. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up, how will the Warriors handle the Timberwolves without Steph Curry? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on Sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.